Listening to the wisdom of the body. This is also a great point on how yoga and why yoga is such a great practice for us to have in our daily lives. It's because we need to learn how to listen or begin listening to the wisdom of the body. And how do we listen to the wisdom of the body? Of our own body. First, we have to get connected to the physical reality. So in this video, we're going to be diving into that subject itself, is the body, the purpose that we are embodied, that all spirituality isn't about getting somewhere else, because we aren't somewhere else, we are here, present. And in the present is the embodiment of each and every individual person, each and every individual being. And as we get in tune with the wisdom that our own body holds, we can begin to get in tune with the wisdom of the mother's body, which is the Mother Earth herself, the living earth. This is a biosphere that the trees and the water and the rocks and the minerals and the sun and the wind and the moon and the stars are all the living body of that same universal mother or principle, which we could even call matter. And I've been riffing on this idea for a while. One of the mantras for the mother is matre, or M-A-T-R-E, matter, essentially, M-A-T-T-E-R, similar spelling of that same thing, the English word matter. And matter is the physical reality that we are living in. So when we look at the physical reality, the easiest place to start is our bodies. Most people want to identify things outside of themselves. You want to identify with the way the weather is. Maybe that's how you're feeling because the weather is a certain way. Instead of being in tune with the body, you're in tune with something outside of yourself. Just a small example. Or the TV. Nowadays it's the TV and it's the programming and the newspaper and the cell phone ads and everything else you experience on the radio. All these programs getting you with something outside of your body, getting you in your mind tuned to something outside of your own body. And this is why the wisdom of the body is listening to what our body actually feels like. Because if you can tune into the breath, your heart rate, your nervous system, your central nervous system, specifically the parasympathetic and the sympathetic states. Getting into the parasympathetic state is the whole purpose of yoga. I made a video on this subject. And it's a great way to look at non-duality too, because you have these two functions of the nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic, and you need both of them to function fully. But there is one that leads us into greater and greater states of stress and tension, and there is another state that leads us into greater and greater states of ease, harmony, balance, purity, meditation. And that is the parasympathetic state that takes us there. Most people are operating from their sympathetic state of nervous system. So check out that video if you'd like to learn more about that. And yoga is one of those exercises that helps us get out of the state of nervous system, which is fight or flight response, and all of these different responses that are automatic to most people because they can't control themselves. When you become functioning fully through yoga and discipline, you can still use these processes like anyone else, but you can control them now, and it's a different experience. Rather than getting flooded with chemicals of stress, you can use a fight or flight response situation to your advantage to actually bring positive chemicals into your chemistry, which is what we would call the work of alchemy. And that's the whole point of yoga, is we're alchemizing the body. We're learning to get in tune with, hey, my body feels sore in these places. If I do this asana, and these certain postures, I'm going to get that exact result of blood flow, more energy, more prana or chi energy. Kundalini energy is going to flow into these places. And I'm also going to be breathing deeper. So automatically by breathing deeper, if we're conscious of our breath and not just going into these postures and poses and stuff for the external value of what we think that might bring us. There is no external value that these things bring us, and that's why yoga is one of the purest practices in our experience, is because we've done all sorts of different spiritual practices, and yoga is the one that brings us closest to that state of harmony and the ability to actually tune into what's real in our body in that moment. So once you lay down for meditation at the end of your asana practice, or you could be sitting as well, just in a regular, posture seat, as well as the knees, or in some form of lotus, half lotus. If you can sustain that, that's the whole goal of yoga, is to eventually be able to just sit in one posture and hold the stability of the spine, breathing consciously, which is bringing awareness to what is happening within the bodies, within the cells. On a cellular level, we begin to start healing from our traumas, from our past experiences, creating new neural pathways, new ways of thinking, new ways of being, just by being present with what's already within the body, not trying to change our thoughts with an installed belief system like has been given to the majority of society. That's, you could say, the mass consciousness of the entire world is like that. And then there's the few that choose to say, no, I refuse that reality. I choose the natural reality that God created, and I'm going to tune into that, which is my body. The God body, or the body, is the temple of the Most High. The bod, it's funny, bod, God. These two words, they're rhyming. You see there's a balance there that's happening. And there's a reason. They tried to flip it to bad instead of bod, which is that original ba, or body embodiment. The Merkaba, again, this state of being embodied uniquely as individual expressions of God, individual spirits and souls that have bodies. And we can either get in tune with our embodiment, or we can choose to get in tune with something outside of our embodiment, which is usually what society has been steered to. So essentially here on Yoga Tantra Healing, that's the whole purpose of all these meditations, is that not just the asana, but the mantra meditation. What are you doing in mantra? You're slowing down the breathing and you're exhaling more than you're inhaling. This creates an automatic parasympathetic nervous system response if you know how to get to that state. To some, it might experience the opposite because they are coming from a stress response state. So this isn't to claim anything medically or any of that stuff that people want to throw all their flack and stuff for. This isn't any of that. This is yoga. This is ancient practices that aren't needed to be seen from a medical lens, because they are the original medicine, which is the medicine of the body. God created us in perfection that we can sustain for thousands of years. This is verified in the Bible. This is verified in the saints of India. This is verified in other traditions around the world. So go and do your research on those things, and you'll see that the reason why people live a shorter amount of time instead of regenerating their bodies from a youthful age, so they never grow in that, say they can only grow more youthful. You grow more youthful. I grow more youthful because I am embodied, and I am embodied with my body, which tells me the things that I need for it. I don't listen to the parasites and the things. I've done all these cleanses. Most people are controlled by their parasites. They're controlled by microorganisms and bacteria. And this controls their thoughts, their moods, their feelings, their emotions, the way they act towards others. And it also depends on the things they eat, which attract them to these things, which feed those parasites. If you do a cleanse, eventually you'll feel you can feed your body now. There's not something eating off of you. You can just be fully empty and in pure bliss instead of in this state of survival. Or most people can't even go without eating. Usually it's the parasites that are hungry, or that you eat and then you eat something again and you eat another thing. And you wonder what you're feeding. Just because you aren't fat doesn't mean you don't have a lot of parasites. They can hide, they can do the opposite effect. But also, most fat that accumulates in the body tends to come from an infestation of microorganisms or parasites. So definitely check out all those things I just mentioned. Do your research on these subjects. And then maybe try out yoga. Reach out to us in the description. Book a session with us. We are certified in multiple fields and always getting more certifications. I'm about to get some more certifications this year and continue growing, because that's all we do here. We don't reach a stage and say we're done. We are enlightened. I am enlightened because I choose to be, which means enlightenment is a state of emotion. You're no longer bound by all these scales of emotion. They try to make this scale of emotions thing nowadays. And I can see through the whole thing, because what enlightenment means is you can see through all of these different frequencies, emotions, to the lowest state where someone can be at. And you can empathize with them rather than sympathizing, which is the sympathetic nervous system. We don't do that here. We empathize, we increase our compassion and ability to feel, yet we don't have to take those energies onto ourselves like other empaths would, because empathy is different from being an empath, which is what most people would try to say that they want to, classify with or whatever. And I don't, follow these trends and all this stuff. We come from the roots, the ancient traditions and ancient tantric, yogic lineages from many traditions. So just understand that if you aren't willing to learn something new with us, we are constantly learning things new. You probably come here and find 1,000 foreign concepts and write it off as hearsay or whatever, when the truth is these are the ancient verified ways of healing the body. The temple is the body, the chakras is the body, temples are aligned to the body. The Most High is the representation of the body, in that sense that we are a representation of the Most High. And those that can't see that, they probably are disembodied spirits, or whatever you want to call that state of consciousness. So here we embody through the soul and the consciousness and bring it all together. That's what yoga is about, union. Tantra is union too, even if you're just looking at it from the sexual aspect. Sex is only one aspect of Tantra. Tantra is mantra, it is yantra, it is siddha, it is bhakti as well, even at times, because bhakti is a formation of all of these basically tantras together, mantra with yantra or an image or some sort of consecration, and then also essentially the yantra, tantra, and anyways, then the actual physical things that go about with the bhakti, whether that's, you're sitting there, you're chanting together with a group of people, that's community, that's the love frequency you're feeling together, the love of God that you're all resonating in these chants and different songs. And that's the whole purpose. Then we're all resonating together in these certain frequencies, in these certain tones and vibrations that get us in tune with the various forms of God and Goddess and the oneness, and not getting distracted by all these external ways of viewing that, but seeing that each one is a specific science, a specific combination, you could say. So that's why I really love Bhakti Yoga. People try to tend to misunderstand that as well too, because you may think, oh, that's only kirtan, or that's only this way of doing it. Well, yes, that is a big aspect of it. Don't forget that just your own mantra, just your own practice, and your communion with God directly, that is where you want to find the real, or where you will find the real fruit. That's where we have found the real fruit, is in our own practice, not with trying to, be some teacher out in the world and tell all these people how to do yoga, when there's so many forms of yoga today that are really just like a 1% or more offshoot of the 100%, which is actually the full thing. You can only get that through Kundalini awakening. You can only get that through real Tantra. And essentially that's why we constantly work towards providing that for people, so there can be an alternative to all these other just basically falsified forms of yoga, which are only one small branch or another, and may even discredit others. And we can see religion is the same thing. So yoga can do that, religion can do that. Tantra is like right in the middle, where you're like, all of these matter, all of us matter, everyone has a unique form to embody, and yet everyone is made in the image of the Most High, which is a human body. If you're embodied as a human, maybe you're an alien, maybe you're something else, maybe you're an animal, I don't know, maybe you're a combination of those things. It's a possibility. Just be open to the possibilities rather than writing off anything, is our perspective that we like to bring. So hopefully you can understand where we're coming from and where I am coming from, because that is the space of the presence of God, the present now. So check out some of those other videos. We've outlined everything for you guys at this point, and it's only like 200 something videos. So just going to keep that rolling. And we're coming into the new year, or the technical new year comes later, but the calendar we're on, we're just passing through into the winter season over here in Virginia on the East Coast. So that is, where it gets pretty cold, but we're going to push through, and we're going to seek the sun And we're going to seek the face of the Most High in all things, in the grace and wisdom of the Goddess, on earth as in heaven. Jai Love. Jai Ma.